Welcome to Game Analysis. Today we're going to have a look at the Metal Gear Solid series. Mainly ask the question, is a Metal Gear Solid remake doable? Now, of course, the overall gameplay mechanics would have to be drastically changed to go with the new style of gameplay, if you will. And cutscenes would have to be slightly altered, but not so much that it changes the canon of the story and changes the overall story in which they were trying to tell. I think if you try and change the canon, you're just going to have a lot of pissed off fans. Now, of course, a remake has been done before. Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes on the Nintendo GameCube. Now, the overall plot and story was basically the same, with altered dialogue and altered cutscenes, maybe a little bit more over-dramatized than it was in the original, with more of an action movie idea of the cutscenes. But overall, the overall story was basically the same. Of course, gameplay was taken from Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty. Basically, the whole gameplay of Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty transferred over to Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes. Now, talking about the original Metal Gear Solid for a minute, this game seemingly changed the gaming industry for the better. It brought a lot of fans or adult gamers back to the gaming industry. It showed that to be an adult-rated game, you didn't have to have blood and gore and guts and swearing and bled and bled and bled. You could bring an actual mature game to your audience with solid gameplay, with concepts and ideas that may have been more convoluted, complicated and complex than they needed to be, but overall got their point across. And could almost show off that the gaming industry could almost be on par with the movie industry as an art form. And I don't think anyone's going to deny it. Metal Gear Solid on the PS1 is a classic. So here's the problem, I think, if you were trying to remake this game. There'd be so much expectation for this to be on par, if not better, than the original. That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure for whoever gets hold of the Metal Gear Solid, the original Metal Gear Solid, who gets hired to recreate this game. This puts a lot of pressure on Hideo Kojima to not sway away from his original vision, where some people may start calling him the George Lucas of the video game industry. And Hideo himself has even stated that the game, the storyline, the idea of the whole story of Metal Gear Solid was really for that era, for that generation. The main theme, philosophy, whatever you want to call it, was what is that current generation going to pass on to the next generation, as well as nuclear disarmament and stuff along those lines. When I first thought about this, I thought, you know what? Instead of, maybe pissing off some fans and maybe not having the idea of the story the same, like what's the next generation, what's this generation going to pass to the next generation, nuclear disarmament, I thought, yeah, you know what, it's not really worth the hassle of remaking. But then I really thought about it. The concepts of and philosophies, ideas of passing on knowledge, whatever it may be, knowledge, this, genes, whatever, from one generation to the next generation is really a timeless message. I mean, what is this generation going to pass on to the next generation? It's going to be one of those timeless messages, in my personal opinion. Also, the threat of nuclear war, the whole nuclear disarmament, what to do with nuclear waste. I have a feeling that even though it's not in the main sort of agenda or main problem we're trying to deal with at this moment in time, I still think that for generations to come, nuclear disarmament, nuclear waste, what to do with it, it's going to be continuously up for debate for generations to come. Overall, Metal Gear Solid was a classic. Seeing that I never played Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes on the Nintendo GameCube, seeing that I've never owned a Nintendo GameCube, I cannot say if the Twin Snakes actually lived up to the expectations of Metal Gear Solid, the original on the PS1, or not. Hell, all I've really seen is cutscenes. But I still think, in the end, A Metal Gear Solid remake is absolutely doable. Now, will it live up to expectations? Who's to say? But by the looks of things, it's a possibility that we will soon have a Metal Gear Solid remake. A remake of the classic Metal Gear Solid game. Will it live up to expectations? I guess only time will tell. I'm out.